Listen to the lyrics. Keep those eyes open and your head up today. There's plenty of beauty to go around on this Friday afternoon here at Gulfstream Park. 8 days. That's the magic number out from that $1 million ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Jason Blewett, Acacia Courtney, good to have you with us as we have a 10-race card on tap.
We do indeed, and today we keep that Rainbow Six building. It was not hit yesterday, and perhaps most importantly, it's Beat the Expert Day, and I'm up today. So you have until first post. You've got about an hour to get your picks in. Free to play. You can go enter on our Facebook page or Gulfstream Park website. You can also check out my full picks on there. Very few scratches on the card today, and we're pretty excited for a fun day of racing.
Indeed we are, as we do a little housekeeping. That is our daily tradition here on Gulfstream today, and a little rundown as to what's on tap on another fast and firm Friday afternoon, second to last Friday of the championship meet. We begin on that firm turf course, in fact, with the opening super high five. We'll have maiden $50,000 to $40,000 3-and-up runners in race number 1, and they will also ring in the opening leg of the 50-cent early pick 5 on this Friday, March 23rd. A bit later, we will get into, drum roll please, 3.98 million plus.
It's really incredible just how this has continued to grow. Haven't paid it out since January 28th, the day after the Pegasus. We'll see if it keeps going until Florida Derby Day to have that mandatory payout. But we do wrap things up with the 50-cent late pick 5 today.
And as we look at today's first race, and eventually we do go full circle, and there's some good-looking turf races a bit later in the day. Late double, in fact, is extraordinary. I mean, two very challenging races. One, a 3-year-old claimer on the turf. Race number 9 is a 3-and-up filly and mare maiden special weight on the grass. Those are coming down the pipeline, but we begin in a first race today that on a glorious day in the weather department has more of a chilly Woodbine Canadian flair and flavor to it, with the presence of the 4 Stormy Action and the 5 Silver Wings Revin. I'm wondering who you used here in the pick 5.
All right, we'll show you my ticket. I did use a little bit of coverage in here, and pretty interesting to see Silver Wings Revin 3 to 5 very early in the wagering, and he's got quite a bit of speed. It looks like there's a lot of speed in this first race. In fact, I'm just using 3, and I did single in race number 2, trying to find a horse to keep this sequence affordable. I idolize You for Jason Service. Just on the drop, looks to be very logical in this spot. And then I'm going to use 3 horses in race number 3. Really interesting race with Riker, who we once saw in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in 2015, now in for the 12-5 tag for Nicholas Gonzalez. As we move along to race number 4, interesting maiden claiming race, going to be using Rucksack and Dapper Sam in there. And then 3 deep in race number 5 to close things out for $27.
3, 4, and 6. Digits, who's the first runner I've seen Roddy Valente owning with trainer Marcus Vitale, along with the number 4 To the Hilt off the claim for Jane Sabelli, and a race heavy on first off the claim runners. You also have the Firster by Big Drama going out for trainer David Fox, and the 6 Gilded Drama does have Jose Ortiz. And there's been some multiple winners. It's kind of been in that family, feast or famine. The horses in the immediate family have been very good, racking up multiple wins, but I even saw there was a half-sibling who's like 0 for 45 as far as still being a lifetime maiden.
For Gilded Drama. Yeah. It's interesting. And then there's also a grade 1 placed horse in Burning Time. So a really interesting family, but I think Dave Fox does a really good job with horses debuting in the maiden claiming race.
I do as well. I have that horse on top, but that's down the line in race number 5. We begin. And beginning with those Woodbine horses, we have the number 4 Stormy Action, who's got Gaff Leone and Roger Atfield. Makes a lot of sense here. That's why we picked this drop-down colt by Stormy Atlantic, who won't be 6 to 1. The board, I mean, we're an hour out from the first race. The board, you can disregard the odds. You're looking at a favorite, maybe second choice here with the 4 Stormy Action, who, again, first time for a tag off a nice building block turf debut here against Better.
And I think he's going to sit a perfect trip in here. As I alluded to earlier, I think that there's quite a bit of early speed in here, specifically with the 3 outside runners. They look to be very quick, and even Jamal Agister, who's dropping, we know his MO very well, as he has raced raced 29 times already. But Stormy Action on the drop. He's got a little bit of turf pedigree. He's by Stormy Atlantic. And Roger Attfield, I think, started off really, really strongly with some of his Gulfstream runners, and I like the way this one worked on the Payson Park turf course.
Next to him, you'll get some speed, you would think, from the 5 Silver Wings Revin, who's off a 5-month layoff and is getting back down into maiden claiming company. And then we have the Stronach homebred, who will give a pop to somewhat of a belated debut for the 4-year-old March Foal in the number 2 Gorbachev with an O. This horse going out for trainer Joe Orsino. So a little bit of a turning back the clock here with Joe training for the Golden Black of Stronach Stables. And I had noted, and again, it's hard to be totally enthused about the pedigree with a horse debuting A as a 4-year-old, but B for a maiden claiming tag, more importantly. But the mare, boy, she was a good horse.
She really was. She was a multiple graded stakes winner. She won 3 times on the turf. Capital Plan. She was very strong. This is actually her first foal. And as you said, with a homebred like this and with that flashy pedigree, with a belated debut for the 50,000, we'll see what we get. But good to see a horse with pedigree like this in 4 Stronach Stables.
And I'm just wondering, we'll leave it at that, maybe a face marking on the number 2 Gorbachev. I just wonder if that's where the name comes from. I was thinking about that. All right, Nick Juarez riding as he comes in off a multiple win Thursday afternoon, and we move on. In the meantime, they're race number 2 today, 5.5 furlongs over the main track. These are 3-year-old, bottom level 3-year-old claimers at that. Tags are 12,500, and it's very tough to get beyond, I think, in just looking at horses that are pretty logical on paper. The number 1, I Idolize You, and the speedy New Champion. In fact, I would argue that New Champion looks better than the 1, I Idolize You on paper because of his good recent races and the fact that he's got early speed at 5.5 furlongs. But I think for you and I, this is very much a trainer play with Jason Service calling the shots.
It is, and on the drop too, and here's a stat to kind of back that up. We give a lot of stats on trainer Jason Service because he does a very good job, particularly here at Gulfstream. And this is going from allowance to claiming, just looking at Gulfstream. And it's not a huge sample size, but he's 4 for 11 and 6 for 11 winning with a really good ROI of 312. So that kind of pushed this horse over the edge for me. Though he really didn't run a step last time, it was a productive race. 2 next out winners, including Mucho Prospect, who got an 80 Beyer speed figure next time. And I had also noticed that it looked like he needed one for fitness. So now that was the end of December, or the beginning of December, in fact. So it's been even a little bit of another break. So drop looks warranted.
And this has been a meet which has been a coming out party for both Erod Ortiz and Jason Service, combining forces together here in South Florida. Over the last 90 days, they are 8 for their last 20 together, and that includes pocket change, getting up just at the wire in yesterday's nightcap.
That was a really game effort.
Yeah, the runner-up ran great. A horse that was on the lead at 22 or 23 to 1, but boy, pocket change was on a hard chase throughout and just somehow found an extra gear in deep stretch.
And that horse looks like he's definitely moving in the right direction. A couple of impressive races to start his career, and that was, I think, one that really backed it up yesterday.
As we move on to race number 3, we stay on the main. We're out to a 1-turn mile. Friday's third, a $12,500 claimer. But unlike the 3-year-olds in race number 2, we'll break out the older horses and an accomplished group. A number of these horses have multiple wins to their credit, and I'm going to give one more chance to the number 3 Podden, who I feel is the starting point in this race for good reason. He almost ran too good to lose last time out, even though ultimately he did lose that race. But it's a race 29 days ago here at Gulfstream on February 22nd. We will backtrack to, and you can see this horse, by the time they reached the quarter pole, he had shrugged off all his pace challengers. He had put in a pretty bold middle move right above the far turn, and perhaps a case of that early move and then really trying to just rip the rug from out underneath everybody else. A little too much for him as he's on that inside lead in deep stretch, and he won't be able to hold off a 10-to-1 upset winner in Tone Daddy. I wonder if Tone Daddy, had he been a little closer to Podden, because he was so far out in the middle of the track, maybe a case of Podden just not seeing him until it was too late with the blinkers on. I like that this horse wasn't a case of him not being able to stay the mile, because he's run well going 8 furlongs in the past.
He certainly has. It was a really big race from him, I thought, and I agree. Maybe the way that things played out into the stretch was a little bit to his detriment, but he's coming in off of a very good race and certainly warrants respect because of that. But you have a really interesting interesting couple of layers in this race because you have the presence of Riker, which really just kind of fascinated me, and I didn't know what to do with him. They gelded him before his most recent start, which was back in October, so we haven't seen him for about 5 months, and now he's going to take a big drop in class. This is a horse that's a graded stakes winner. We saw him again running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in 2015, and he is dropping down to the 12.5 level. He's got Luis Saez. Again, I just didn't really know what to do with him. He's been working very quickly.
It seems like he has been working fast. I mean, he's got a huge breeze here locally at Gulfstream, not up at Palm Meadows, right here at GP, a half mile and 46-3 breezing. Horse that's obviously got some stake face, to say the least, on his resume and some serious back class. What a tough game. You think the ebb and flow of these horses with a horse who was cut out to be a very good one and a graded stakes winner during his 2-year-old campaign. And then we have trainer Dale Romans, who's just 8 days out from running a couple of horses, and next Saturday's $1 million Florida Derby, including the Fountain of Youth winner, promises fulfilled. He's got the 5, Izzy the Warrior, who seems to be one of the keys early on, along with my horse Pot, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were 1-2 down the backstretch.
They certainly could be, and Riker used to show speed too, so again, I'm just not really sure what we're going to get with him, especially with those quick works, but I think stretching out in distance for Izzy the Warrior will see him getting into the race early, which is good because I think that that's really where his most potent punches come. The way that he rallied last time, it kind of looked to me like he might have wanted a little bit more distance, so that was the reason that I did end up using him on the stretch out in here today, and just kind of going through horse by horse, he was the one that I landed on, and just that he is a little bit of the fresh face and another one of an unknown in here at this distance.
Been a good winter for Dale, 23 victories and counting as he runs 2 horses today at Gulfstream, beginning in race 3 with Izzy the Warrior. As we move on to Friday's 4th race, a $50,000 maiden claimer. These are 3 and up. Good chunk of dirt racing early on, and in fact, the last few races, in fact, it's an all-turf late pick 5 this afternoon, but we are on the dirt going the 1-turn mile in the 4th race. My opinion, not the strongest here. I'm going to just follow. This is the game. Follow the rider that's got 119 victories at the meet in Luis Saez, who's riding the year-plus layoff horse, 370 days between starts for the One Winter Union. In this spot, I'm just going where Louis goes off the long layoff. I think it's a major, major, major plus that Michael Matz is saying, you know what, I think this horse is good enough to win. Again, the fact that he hasn't run in over 12 months. Yes,
he hasn't run since March 18th of 2017, and I was playing around with stats trying to find anything, and with this kind of long layoff going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming, 2 for 4, so just not really something that Michael Matz does, but we have seen this especially over the winter meet, reaching out for John Velasquez, reaching out for Luis Saez. You really do have to pay attention to where the jockeys do land, especially here in the winter, and obviously a great horseman. Faced really tough company in his debut race at Gulfstream last winter with 3 next out winners. There's a lot of turf on the bottom side, so I'm curious, but I do think he'll be able to handle the stretch out. I went with a horse that has some of the recency and has the speed, and the number 4 Rucksack was well beaten by Agujero last time, but a much more seasoned horse in there. They added the blinkers on, and I just hope he runs away from the field.
He does have speed. He's coming out of a maiden 50 I didn't think was all that deep, and there are some new shooters here that are eligible to be maybe a little bit better than the likes of Agujero. We'll see, because we already talked about Winter Union and the number 5 Dapper Sam, who I've got a little further down the line as far as rating the horse goes than you do. He needs to be discussed, as Ken McPeak is running just his 7th horse this winter here at Gulfstream Park. Good trainer, but a barn that is just 2 for their last 33 over the last 5 years exclusively here at GP. But this horse, obviously, if he can replicate that race at Tampa, he's going to win.
And that was on the turf, and so that's the biggest question here, but he hasn't been exposed for the tag before, but he got a 72 Beyer speed figure, so if he continues to move forward, and kind of you're thinking with the 1 horse, Irad Ortiz does land on Dapper Sam, so that's kind of what really intrigued me about this one.
Yeah, trainer Ken McPeak has another major player coming up with one of the Ortiz boys. We'll talk about that horse and many more, of course, after this quick timeout here on Gulfstream Today.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact. Now, North America's most lucrative awards program will pay a 50% breeder award for PA-sired, PA-bred maidens who run first, second, or third, with 25% for non-PA-sired PA-breds. Plus, up to 40% in owner bonuses, 400-plus restricted races, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 6th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania. It's a winner.
Saturday, March 31st at Gulfstream Park. Be here as the country's top 3-year-old thoroughbreds compete for glory in the 67th running of the ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Experience this epic day of live racing with over $2.5 million at stake. Admission and parking absolutely free. Men and women, come dressed in your Derby best and win fabulous prizes. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for details. The ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Witness the crowning of a champion. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
Hard to believe, but it's the case. That Saturday, March 31st card, just 8 days away as we have, well, this championship meet culminating with a classic great day of racing. I think I could speak for you as well. I'm a little older, but we've always loved the Florida Derby. I can remember just so many great runnings. Holy Bull, Thunder Gulch, going back to the mid-90s. You came up a little bit later, but I'm sure you've loved the Florida Derby too.
Oh, of course, and it's one of the marquee races of the meet, and just to see how productive it's been. We've talked about this, watching horses go on from the Florida Derby into the Kentucky Derby and other Triple Crown races. It's been so exciting, and to see being able to follow those horses that ran here at the Gulfstream at Gulfstream in the winter. And I was actually out this morning talking to trainer Jonathan Thomas. Catholic Boy arrived last night. Strike Power and Tip Sheet also worked this morning, so everybody's getting ready, and you can really feel the buzz.
Yeah, those final preparations picking up in intensity, and then they'll lay low and kind of just go through the motions, gearing up for the big day, as we are likely running 13 or 14 here. Remains to be seen, but it'll be a long day, but a great day.
Absolutely.
On Fountain of, or I should say Florida Derby Day 2018. Promises fulfilled, by the way, won the Fountain of Youth. And what are we doing here in the Rainbow Six?
Let's get on to the Rainbow Six. I think we both might need a nap, too. We're going to start in race number 5 in here. And just under $4 million. As we said, pretty incredible to be watching this Rainbow Six carryover just continue to build day after day. Using the same 3 horses I used to cap my late pick 5. In the 6th race, I'm just using the 7 Accolade, trying to rebound after that race back in December. He is a gelding now, also using Longblade, who has a lot of speed for Armando de la Cerda. In race number 7, I'm going to go with 3 horses, and then my single of the day in this sequence.
You and everybody else.
I think so. I think Peru is just, she's got a lot of class. She's coming in, she meets the right field, good outside post for Mike Maker. And as we know, Jason and I, biggest Mike Maker fans, you'll find. And race number 9, I'm going to go 3 horses. That's a really strong maiden race on the turf that I'm really looking forward to. And another good race to cap things out with a nice allowance race in the 10th. I'm using 4 horses in there. I do like a bit of a price in Discovered, recent maiden winner for Mark Casse.
Ooh, that horse will be a nice price in race 10. Pletcher's got one dropping in. Bantu, I think, is a trip handicapper horse as he comes off a traffic-filled trip behind Elk Camp. So, yeah, you're going to get a good price on that Discovered in the nightcap for trainer Mark Casse, who is busy today, along with Ken McPeak, who's got a couple of runners, in fact, in successive races here, as we talked about his Harlan's Holiday horse in race number 4. In fact, a Colonel John that he's got in the 4th. And then he's got the Harlan's Holiday horse in race number 5 with Erod Ortiz. The number 7, Terrible Day, who we didn't put in our superfecta. Again, a race, though, as we start the Rainbow Six, very much dominated by new claims.
It really is. And you and I both going for a firster, and we already talked a little bit about Gilded Drama, who does pick up Jose Ortiz, has been working very well, and has some questionable pedigree with some really nice horses. You have a grade 1 place horse in Burning Time, and then a couple of siblings who maybe didn't pan out as well. But I like David Fox with firsters and claiming levels. The one first off the claim that I was most interested in was To the Hilt, just getting back to the dirt and that speed.
And you could see I was most interested in that new claim too, a cold 6.43 try from the team here in Friday's 5th race. You heard it here first, folks. Let's move on to the second half of the program. March 23rd continues here at the Gulf with race number 6, a $20,000 maiden claimer. These are 3-year-olds on the turf, sprinting 5 furlongs. And as I look down, I see the 7 Accolade. And it's very much a race where I think a lot of people will like Accolade and the number 8 horse Long Blade. In the case of Accolade, he gets one more chance. He'll start the late pick 5 as one of 2 that I used here in Friday 6. He seems very much trouble prone.
Yes.
But off that race last time out when just nothing went his way from the quarter pole home, I have to give him one more chance. And I'm pretty comfortable using the 2 favorites to start things out along with the aforementioned 8 horse and Long Blade. I prefer the speed of 20 and 4, who should be on the lead today, or certainly up on the engine, but I went 3 deep altogether in race number 7. I also like the 9-year-old Fan Base, who's getting some class relief for Joe Cat. Peru looks like the free bingo square universal single today.
Yep.
Not saying she's a complete lock, but she's every bit of a huge odds-on favorite, and she's just the latest of quite a few monstrous Mike Maker claims, especially on the turf. And I love the late double, much like you. I went 3 deep in the 9th. I've got Cassie, Shug, Kristoff, and you'll see Mark Cassie and a few of those trainers in action in race 10 as well, including Todd Pletcher, who sends out the number 3 Earth, who might be slightly the horse to beat in that race, along with Aubrey Mirage's recent maiden winner, who's run great off the claim.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to Aubrey Mirage this morning when I was out at the barn, ran into him, and he said the horse is doing great, and they're really excited for this afternoon.
Yeah, it looks like they may have claimed a diamond in the rough, certainly ahead of the curve with that Son of Broken Vow they have running in race number 10, the number 6, Musical Heart, who's by McLean's Music. Check that. All right, Son of Pioneer of the Nile, New York bred, the number 7 Accolade. We've talked about how at times trouble-prone this horse seems to be, and the last race I think exemplifies that because we'll backtrack to his most recent race back on December 20th here at Gulfstream, and this is a horse that saved ground, was able to get covered up in more of a 2-path towards the back of the pack. They start to straighten away, and it looks like Edgar Zaya still has some horse. He starts to ask Accolade in the green. Things will eventually start to tighten up, and he just gets squeezed, checked, steadied, and completely sandwiched from in between rivals, seemingly losing all chance. One more chance. You and I say one more chance for Accolade today off just a nightmarish time.
Yeah, and we'll show a stat, not to belabor the point with this horse, but any chance he had after that, there was no chance. But here's the stat with trainer Christophe Clement on the turf with a layoff of 60 to 180 days. Just looking at maiden claimers, not necessarily a move that you would think so frequently for this barn, but 36% win, 64% of the time in the money, and a positive ROI. Do note he is a gelding, and he will be racing without Lasix today. So it looks like they're pretty comfortable with how he's coming in off the layoff.
And the big city below. You did a nice job taking some pictures, those aerial shots this morning.
That's my side job.
You were at the barns, up in the sky, and now you're with us here on the set. She's done it all, folks. You ought to take a race or 2 off today and just chill out. As we move on to race number 7, again, an all-turf late pick 5, so we're on the green stuff here for Friday 7th, a $12,500 older claimer. And I'm going to, I know he's not really one of the horses to beat, or maybe in the top 2 or 3 choices of this upcoming 7th race, but the drop and getting back on the turf because there's one grass race against Song Air, classic move at Unbroken Chain, legitimate horses, was a good effort. I'm going to take 20 and 4, stretching out from a good post.
I think this is the kind of race that you kind of look horse by horse, and there's a lot of things that could happen, and trip is really going to be paramount. So you've got a horse with speed that's run against Stuffer on the grass. That's absolutely a good angle. I went with the number 4 Modern Tale, kind of just a drop-down play, really, for a very good barn. Elizabeth Dobles, Edgar Perez aboard. I have absolutely no qualms about that. His race at a claiming level 2 starts back. Talking about running into legitimate horses, he ran into Conquest Sandman and lay that pistol down, both of whom came back to win. I think horse by horse 2 back, that was a very tough field that he found.
And the 9-year-old, the number 8 Fan Base, figures to take some play, and rightfully so. He's had a real hardy career with 18 lifetime victories, and his recent few, those 16K claimers are just absolute battles. They're absolute turf wars. He meets a lot easier. Not that this field's a layup, but it's a significant, sizable difference. We'll see if the old boy can get it done for Joe Cat Nice.
We're fans of Fan Base.
Indeed we are. Let's move on to race number 8 as we get on to this 3-and-up filly mare, $35,000 optional claimer, in which trainer Mike Maker sends out the British bred, the 7 Peru. Hard to believe where she's gone after being claimed off a top trainer for $25,000. $1,000. And one of the finest, although it was a tough loss, one of the finest moments of her career was way back when, on opening day of this championship meet, Saturday, December 2nd, a race we will show you in the Claiming Crown Tiara, and it's amazing. And she's in the Ramsey white and red, amazing looking at Martini Glass and Starship Jubilee. 3 of them former claiming horses who were all legitimately graded quality on the turf.
And just seeing Martini Glass get her latest graded stakes win. She runs on the dirt, runs on the turf, one that Keith Nations claimed for $16,000. And then you look at Peru, claimed for $25,000. And that photo was incredible. What a race the 2 mares put up.
I called that photo wrong. That's how close it was. I remember watching it. I
think unfortunately Mr. Ramsey did too.
I think he was headed down to the winner's circle. I'm like, I think Peru got it, but boy, oh boy. Good one there with Martini Glass with the classy Starship Jubilee in the 3rd spot. And boy, it just looks like she's got a bit of a talent edge on today's 8th race field. As we come up on race number 9, and a good one beckons in this 3-and-up filly mare maiden special weight, one of, in my opinion, the best wagering opportunities and races on today's card. In fact, both halves of the late double easily grab that moniker as we have this 7.5 furlong maiden race. And if you remember to my late pick 5 comment, you've got one in here for Cassie, one in here for Alan Goldberg, Shug, Christophe Comont, and even the 7 Inspired Vows coming out of a very good effort. Lost a tough one here, exiting the same race as your top pick, the number 1, One Moment in Time.
And I found a stat on trainer Mark Cassie, and just looking back at my notes for One Moment in Time last time, we're going to look at a stat in the past 5 years on the turf, second off the layoff with maiden special weight runners in the money last out. And I know it's a very specific stat, but that's because Mark Cassie has a lot of horses, but very good numbers with this. So just looking at these types of maidens second off the bench on the grass, 38% win and 73% of the time in the money. Looking at notes last time, I thought that she looked great in the coat, but needed one as far as fitness. So coming back, she's still in special weight. The race has produced 2 next out winners, and she was a bit keen early on. So I think that race will serve as a really good bottom for her.
A major player in that stat basically says horses come back, they run okay, they run well enough, but again, it's go time, second off the bench. We shall see with that 4-year-old filly by Bodemeister. Shug's got one in the 5, Astaku Trail. I thought Erod Ortiz, who's back aboard today, did a great job from an outside post, post 9, going that tricky 1 mile where they break and they're immediately on the clubhouse turn, but he was able to get her over to the 2 path without a straw in her path, and she ran well, just losing a tough one at 15-1. And I had my eye on, after picking Christophe earlier with Accolade in race number 6, I'm going to give a little shot to the number 6, Sweet Strike, who's got a big pedigree.
She does.
And I think with her debuting in the middle of July at Delaware, not running at Belmont or not hanging out to start early on in the Saratoga meet, the fact that she hasn't run since, and her debut was fine. Christophe has no problem shipping maidens to Tampa. I think she's probably trained really well enough to warrant the start here at a tougher meet like Gulfstream.
And that's a great angle to look at for sure, because you do get some top barns that will run elsewhere with the 2nd or 3rd tier strings. And so to bring her here for this type of maiden special weight, I think is encouraging. She's got a lot of good pedigree, as you mentioned, very strong female family. And then the 7 Inspired Vows, speaking of Christophe, was beaten by a Christophe Clement runner last time out in Parole. It faced Holy Helena up at Woodbine, second off the layoff, and got that speed.
She's got perhaps arguably, and I think she does, the best last out turf race, but in a way just with a more under the radar trainer sending her out. She does have Luis Saez, but with that under the radar modest sized barn, she might wind up being the 4th choice in this race, even though she ran better than any of the other horses in here in their most recent respective starts. We've got one more for you, and we end things again on a pretty good foot here with this 3-year-old optional claimer on the turf going a 2-turn mile. I've been waiting for the number 5 Bantu to run back, and I know this is a horse, I think one of the most recent Beat the Expert days you were on.
Naturally beating the neck.
Yeah, of course, and we say that because you got to see what happened to Bantu. I had liked Elk Camp and placed a couple of bucks on him, and I remember feeling relief after this race and feeling very lucky because Bantu was a good amount the best, certainly a length or two to the good, as he tries to follow in the pocket. He tries to follow Elkamp. The only problem is there isn't a seam, there isn't a hole, and Jose Ortiz has really got to wait to finally get Bantu away from those horses to his outside. He's able to extricate himself outside of Elkamp. But on this turf course with the Pletcher runner in front of you, it was just a little too late for Bantu. The one sort of negative, or at least playing devil's advocate here, this is a I think, way deeper field of runners than the race that he comes out of with the trouble against Elkamp.
That's why I did end up using him a little bit further down. Not that I'm a little bit salty about last time, but I did think he has to step it up a little bit. The blinkers do come off, and he is the type of horse that does like to come from a bit more off the pace. But we mentioned Musical Heart. That horse was very game last time out, and a really, really good claim for Aubrey Mirage and keeps Luis Saez. I took a stab with Discovered, my price play of the day, and I know that his race 2 starts back against Special Weight Company was pretty abysmal, honestly. But even when they dropped him, I thought all in all it was a pretty solid maiden 50 field that he faced last time. I expected better effort third off the layoff. He was drifting a little bit and showed me that he still had some greenness last time, but the way that he finished up that race, it looked like he was really taking a big step in the right direction.
Some great points. He's going to be a good price. Great trader calling the shots, and you have Tyler Gaffalione, who enters the card today with 81 wins at the meet. He's third in the standings, and expecting good things from Gaffalione and all the top riders here on this Friday afternoon at Gulfstream Park. I've got Pletcher and Javi in the nightcap, and we've all got, that's the best news of all, the one and only Pete Aiello, who's standing by with those Friday scratches and changes.